Emily Carter stood in front of the airport doors, her hands shaking slightly as she clutched the handle of her suitcase. The sun was just starting to rise, casting a soft orange light over the busy parking lot. Cars pulled up, people rushed by, and the buzz of excitement mixed with the smell of coffee and exhaust. Today was a big day for Emily. She was flying to a different city for her first real job interview, something she had been dreaming about for years. Her heart raced just thinking about it. She had never flown alone before, and everything felt loud, bright, and too fast. She looked down at her outfit and took a deep breath. Her mom had helped her pick it out the night before. A neat, colorful skirt that came just below her knees, a yellow blouse with tiny flowers on it, and a pair of white sandals. It wasn't fancy, but it was cheerful and clean. Emily had loved it when she tried it on. Now, standing among travelers in gray suits and shiny high heels, she felt out of place. Maybe it was too much. Maybe she looked silly. No, she whispered to herself. It's fine, it's me. Pulling her suitcase behind her, she stepped inside the airport. The noise hit her like a wave. Families gathered by the check-in lines, businessmen tapped on their phones, and children cried or laughed as they held their stuffed animals tight. Emily swallowed hard. She followed the signs toward her airline's counter, her palms growing sweaty. She tried to walk tall, but every step felt heavy. Her heart thudded in her ears. She could feel people's eyes on her, or at least it felt that way. She knew she wasn't anything special here, just another face in the crowd. Still, her stomach twisted with nerves. Ahead, 2 airline staff members stood at the counter. They wore matching dark blue uniforms and bright smiles, the kind that seemed a little too sharp. Emily gave them a small, shaky smile as she got in line. Just get through this, she told herself. Just check in, go to your gate, and you'll be okay. She had no idea that in just a few moments her whole morning was about to get so much worse. Emily moved slowly through the line, her suitcase rolling behind her with a soft bump over the tile floor. Her fingers tightened around the handle. The 2 airline staff members at the counter, a woman with sharp, dark eyes and a tall man with messy hair, looked busy, typing quickly on their keyboards. When it was Emily's turn, she stepped forward and smiled nervously. "Good morning," she said, her voice barely louder than a whisper. The woman glanced up, then quickly looked Emily up and down. For a second her mouth twisted like she was trying not to laugh. The man next to her noticed too. He leaned over and whispered something in her ear. They both giggled, not the friendly kind of laugh, but the mean kind. The kind Emily remembered from middle school when the popular girls would whisper and point at her second-hand shoes. Emily felt her cheeks start to burn. She kept her eyes down, pretending not to notice. Maybe it wasn't about her. Maybe they were laughing at something else. She handed over her ID with trembling fingers. The woman took it and typed something into the computer. As she worked, she said under her breath, just loud enough for Emily to hear, "Looks like she's going to a fashion show." The man snickered again. Emily's chest tightened. She could hear the mockery in their voices. She knew they were making fun of her outfit. The skirt her mom had ironed so carefully, the bright blouse they had picked out together. She had thought she looked nice. Now she just felt stupid. As she waited for her boarding pass, Emily stared at a spot on the wall, blinking quickly to stop the tears that were building up in her eyes. Her hands felt cold and sweaty at the same time. It was like all the air had been sucked out of the room. Behind her she heard soft murmurs. Other travelers were noticing. A man with a baby gave the staff members a sharp look. A woman with a briefcase shook her head. The airline woman handed back Emily's ID and ticket without a word. Emily whispered a shaky, "Thank you," and quickly pulled her suitcase away from the counter, her head down. She wanted to disappear. She made it past the check-in line and ducked behind a pillar, pretending to check her phone. She wiped at her eyes, taking deep breaths. She hated that she was letting 2 strangers make her feel this small, but she couldn't help it. Their laughter echoed in her mind. For a moment she thought about turning around, canceling the whole trip and going back home. But then she thought about her mom's proud face when she hugged her goodbye that morning. She thought about the job interview she had worked so hard to get. Slowly, painfully, she picked up her suitcase and headed towards security. Every step felt heavier than the last. She didn't see the woman standing a few feet behind her, watching everything with sharp, thoughtful eyes. Mrs. Lennox stood quietly near the check-in counter, her small black suitcase resting by her side. She wore a neat gray sweater, and simple black pants. Nothing flashy, but there was something about her, something calm and serious. People didn't notice her much, and that was just how she liked it. She had watched the whole scene unfold. From the moment Emily stepped into the line, Mrs. Lennox had noticed the nervous way the young woman clutched her suitcase, the way her colorful clothes stood out in a sea of dark business suits. She had also seen the quick, cruel glances from the staff. She had heard the whispered jokes. Mrs. Lennox's mouth tightened into a firm line. In her many years working in business, she had learned a lot about people. Some thought a uniform gave them the right to look down on others. Some believed a laugh at someone else's expense would never be noticed. But Mrs. Lennox noticed. She noticed everything. As Emily hurried away, shoulders slumped and heart clearly broken, Mrs. Lennox pulled out her phone and opened a small notepad app. She typed a few quick words, then tucked the phone back into her bag. She would not forget the names on those name tags, Maya and Jordan. She would not forget the way Emily had stood there, trying to hold her head up while others laughed at her. Mrs. Lennox knew better than most how small moments could change a person's life. She could still remember times from her own younger years, times when a careless word or a cruel laugh had made her doubt herself. Some hurt stayed inside for a long time, but sometimes if the right person was watching, those moments could lead to something better. Mrs. Lennox gave a small nod to herself. She picked up her suitcase and followed the crowd toward security, her mind already working, thinking about what needed to happen next. Far ahead, Emily walked with her head down, unaware that someone powerful, someone who believed in fairness, had just decided to stand up for her. Emily found her gate and sank into a seat near the window. She tucked her suitcase close to her legs and hugged her backpack to her chest. The huge glass windows showed planes rolling slowly across the runway, but Emily hardly noticed them. Her mind was spinning. She couldn't stop replaying the laughter at the counter, the way the woman had smirked, the way the man had whispered and chuckled. She pulled out her phone, pretending to scroll, just to have something to do. She didn't want anyone to see how close she was to crying again. Most people around her were busy with their own lives. Some wore earbuds, others talked quietly, and a few kids chased each other near the rows of chairs. No one seemed to notice her. That was fine with Emily. She just wanted to disappear. But someone did notice. A young flight attendant in a crisp navy uniform walked by, her arms full of neatly folded blankets. She glanced at Emily, paused, and then turned back around. "Hey there," the woman said kindly. Her voice was soft but strong, the kind of voice that made you want to listen. Her name tag said Sarah. Emily looked up, startled. She quickly tried to smile. "Hi," she said, her voice cracking a little. "Are you doing okay?" Sarah asked. She set the blankets down on a nearby counter and knelt a little so she was eye level with Emily. For a moment Emily almost lied, and said she was fine, but something about Sarah's warm eyes made her tell the truth, even if it was only part of it. "I'm just a little nervous," Emily said. She gave a small laugh, but it didn't sound happy. Sarah smiled. Not the fake kind, but the real kind that showed in her eyes. "First time flying alone," she guessed. Emily nodded. Sarah sat down on the chair across from her. "Well, you're doing great. Really. You made it through check-in. You made it to your gate, and pretty soon you'll be on that plane, heading somewhere important." Emily blinked, surprised by how much those simple words helped. She felt her chest loosen a little, like she could finally breathe again. "I like your outfit," Sarah added. "It's bright and cheerful. Most people here are dressed like they're going to a funeral, but you look like you're bringing sunshine with you." Emily's mouth dropped open slightly. She hadn't realized how badly she needed to hear something nice. She smiled, a real small smile. "Thank you," she said, her voice stronger this time. Sarah winked. "Anytime. And remember, people who laugh at others are usually just trying to hide how unhappy they are themselves. Don't ever let them steal your sparkle." Before Emily could answer, Sarah was called away by another flight attendant. She gave Emily a thumbs up before heading off. For the first time that morning, Emily felt a little bit braver. She wasn't alone after all. There were still good people, kind people, even in a big busy world. She sat up straighter, looking out the window again. A plane took off into the brightening sky, and Emily let herself imagine, just for a moment, that maybe her own life was about to lift off too. Emily sat by the window, feeling a little steadier thanks to Sarah's kindness. She watched the planes, hugged her backpack tighter, and told herself that soon she would be flying too, flying towards something better. Just then, an announcement crackled over the loudspeaker. "Attention, Maya and Jordan. Please report to Gate 12 immediately. I repeat, Maya and Jordan to Gate 12. The names caught Emily's ear. She looked up, confused. Weren't those the names on the badges of the staff who had laughed at her? Across the waiting area she spotted them. Maya and Jordan were standing near a coffee cart, laughing over something on Jordan's phone. When they heard the announcement, they stiffened. They shared a look, one that said they knew this wasn't good. The two of them hurried toward Gate 12, which wasn't far from where Emily sat. She watched as a tall man in a sharp black suit and a woman with a clipboard met them there. And standing right beside them, calm, steady and serious, was Mrs. Lennox. Maya opened her mouth, probably ready to throw out a casual greeting, but the man in the suit cut her off. "We need to have a serious conversation," he said, his voice firm but not loud. Maya and Jordan looked around nervously. People were starting to notice. A few passengers nearby turned their heads. Emily felt herself sinking lower into her seat, hoping not to be seen. Mrs. Lennox stepped forward, her voice cool and clear. "I witnessed the behavior of your staff at check-in this morning," she said. "Not just unprofessional, cruel." Maya's smile faded. Jordan shifted awkwardly, stuffing his hands into his pockets. "The young woman you laughed at," Mrs. Lennox continued, "was treated with disrespect in front of other passengers. That is against our airline's core values." The man with the clipboard nodded. "We've also received complaints from other travelers who saw and heard what happened." Emily's eyes widened. She hadn't realized anyone else had cared enough to speak up. Maya tried to argue. "It was just a joke that humiliated a customer," Mrs. Lennox interrupted sharply. "A joke that could have ruined someone's day, or worse. You represent this company. When you put on that uniform, you carry its name." Jordan looked like he wanted to disappear. The man in the suit spoke again. "Effective immediately. Your employment with the airline is terminated." A hush fell over the area. Maya gasped, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Jordan muttered something under his breath, but it was too late. Two security staff members approached quietly and motioned for them to leave. As they were led away, Emily stared at her hands, stunned. She hadn't asked for this. She hadn't even told anyone what happened. Yet somehow justice had found its way to her. Mrs. Lennox watched the two former employees leave, then turned to the gate staff, giving clear instructions about respect and service. Then, to Emily's amazement, Mrs. Lennox caught her eye across the waiting area. She gave a small nod, almost like a salute. It wasn't much, it wasn't loud, but Emily understood. Someone had seen her pain. Someone had cared enough to make it right. And even though the morning had started badly, even though it had hurt more than she wanted to admit, it wasn't ending in shame. It was ending in strength. After everything that had just happened, the waiting area felt different. The air seemed lighter. The low hum of people talking, the roll of suitcases, even the distant call of boarding announcements. It all seemed softer somehow. Emily sat quietly, still hugging her backpack. She kept thinking about the way Mrs. Lennox had looked at her. Not with pity, but with pride. Like Emily was someone worth standing up for, someone strong. She didn't feel weak anymore. She didn't feel silly about her outfit, or about being nervous. For the first time that day, Emily felt like maybe, just maybe, she was exactly who she was supposed to be. The boarding announcement for her flight echoed through the speakers. Emily stood up, taking a deep breath. She picked up her suitcase, squared her shoulders, and walked toward the line. As she moved forward, a familiar voice called out, "Hey, sunshine!" Emily turned to see Sarah, the flight attendant who had spoken to her earlier, waving from the side. "Come here a sec," Sarah said with a smile. Emily wheeled her suitcase over, a little confused but curious. "I made a call," Sarah said quietly. "You've been upgraded to comfort class, extra space, nicer seat. Consider it a small thank you for being such a bright spot today." Emily's mouth dropped open. "Really? But I didn't do anything." Sarah shrugged. "You showed courage when it would have been easier to hide. That's rare. And besides," she added with a wink, "we need more sunshine at the front of the plane." Emily laughed, a real happy laugh that surprised even herself. "Thank you," she said, meaning it with her whole heart. Sarah handed her the new boarding pass, and pointed toward the special lane for upgraded passengers. Emily walked toward it, her heart thudding. But this time, it wasn't from fear, it was from excitement. As she boarded the plane, the other flight attendants greeted her with smiles. Emily found her seat, settled in by the window, and pulled her backpack onto her lap. Out the window, she watched the airport workers loading bags, the bright lights blinking on the runway, and the deep blue sky stretching out above them. Somewhere beyond that sky was a new city, a new job interview, a whole new chapter waiting for her. She glanced down at her colorful skirt and yellow blouse, and smiled. This outfit wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a joke. It was her, bright, hopeful, a little different maybe, but strong. The plane's engines rumbled to life. Emily closed her eyes for a moment and whispered to herself, "I belong here." And for the first time all day, she truly believed it. The plane climbed higher and higher into the sky, the ground shrinking below until everything looked tiny. The cars, the buildings, even the people. Emily leaned her forehead against the cool window, feeling the steady hum of the engines beneath her. It felt like she was leaving behind more than just a city. She was leaving behind doubt, fear. The tiny voice inside her that used to whisper, "You're not enough." As the plane leveled out, a flight attendant came by with drinks. Emily thanked her and sipped her orange juice slowly, feeling calm for the first time in hours. She thought about the woman, Mrs. Lennox, and the way she had stepped in when Emily needed it most. She thought about Sarah, who had taken the time to offer kindness instead of judgment. And she thought about herself, standing in line, shaking and scared but still moving forward. Maybe bravery didn't always look like shouting or fighting. Maybe sometimes, bravery was just staying true to yourself, even when the world laughed. Out of habit, Emily opened her backpack and pulled out a small notebook. She always carried it with her, a gift from her mom when she graduated high school. On the first page, there was a quote written in her mom's neat handwriting, "Be the light that shines when others try to bring darkness." Emily smiled and flipped to a clean page. She started to write, not a story, not even a journal entry, just a few simple words. "Today I remembered who I am." The seatbelt light dinged, and the captain announced that they would be landing soon. Emily tucked the notebook away and looked out the window again. The city she was flying to stretched out below, full of lights, full of chances, full of possibilities. For the first time in a long while, Emily didn't feel small. She didn't feel invisible. She felt strong. She felt ready. She felt like her story was just beginning. And somewhere, far away, maybe even back at that busy airport, Mrs. Lennox smiled to herself, knowing that sometimes, standing up for one person could change more than just a day. It could change a life. The plane touched down with a soft thud, and Emily smiled. She had landed, and she was exactly where she was meant to be.